Welcome to the Knowledge for Men show. Your life will never be the same.
Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development.
I want to die empty of regret. I want to die empty of my best work. We don't understand who we are. Instead, we're living out somebody else's narrative.
What one man can do, another man can do. If it's been done, it can be done again.
Being yourself and being your truest, most authentic self in every moment. If it scares you or makes you a little afraid, do it. Follow your heart and your gut.
The first stage, I think, is finding you, like finding out who I am today.
Stuff will not work. You will have things that fail. Success is when you're a happy, fulfilled person. How do you define success?
It's your life, and you are the creator of the movie script that is your life story.
Do you ever feel like you're doing the journey alone? Have you ever felt like that you just need someone to talk to, someone who could bring some perspective into your world? Or maybe you're not the type of person who learns from watching video courses or reading books, and you just want to talk with someone specifically about your challenges and how to break through them. I want to introduce you to the High Performance Men's Coaching Program. It's an intensive coaching experience designed to unlock a man's full potential in his life, business, and relationships. Over this past year, I've brought together and trained some of the best coaches in the world to help men step up, stop playing small, and become the strongest versions of themselves. Learn more about High Performance Men's Coaching at kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. You are not alone, and we are here to cut through the crap, hold you accountable, and challenge you so that you can make your dreams become a reality. Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm here with Dan Martell, the founder of Clarity, acquired by Fundable, and Flowtown, acquired by Demand Force. Dan first became a millionaire at age 27 and has since invested in businesses such as Udemy, which I have a course on, Intercom, Unbounce, and Food Spotting. He teaches startups to reach escape velocity and believes this: you can only keep what you give away. Dan, welcome to the show.
Andrew, thank you so much for having me. And I'm glad you hit record because we were bantering and I thought, I was like, we'll start soon. And you're like, no, let's do this. So this worked perfect.
Yeah. Also, I forgot to mention, Canada named you one of the top or the top angel investor. That's
in 2012. Yeah, 2012. I feel blessed. It's always weird hearing somebody else list off your accolades. I know it's important to give context. So, I sit back here. It's still, still have to pinch myself. I mean, yeah, like it's cool. I appreciate it.
All right, let's dive right in. And we start off every show with a favorite success quote or some sort of saying that you've always lived by. Sounds like we almost just had one there in the intro. Which one do you have and what?
I would say the one that's guided me the most is become the person who can deal. So I have a manifesto. If anybody's interested more, it's like Dan Martell, 2lsmartell.com/manifesto. And it's so part of my life. It's like I've gotten it projected in my wall in my garage. So like anybody comes to my house or every time I drive into my parking lot, it's like on the wall in huge letters. And become the person who can deal is one of the parts to it. And to me, that's, anytime I've ever felt frustrated with just like challenges that came up, I just got to like quickly remind myself, like, I need those. Like, no pressure, no diamonds, right? Like, you can't create greatness without the bad stuff that pushes you to grow, right?
Right.
So anytime I see, or even you see somebody like flying around private and you're like, oh, I wish that could be me. Like, I wish I owned my own jet. It's like, cool. Become the person who can own your own jet. Like that's all that is, So that to me is probably, I wish I would have learned that when I was a lot younger. It probably would have served me in a big way.
So become the person who can deal is about becoming the person who can
deal with the problems.
Okay.
Most people can't deal with the $1 billion problem. They think that I want to be a billionaire. Guess what? You would effing crumble under the stress of $1 billion problems. People are like, I want to be a millionaire. All right, cool. Here's $1 million problems. They would probably go into a depression. Like, think about that. Like, people don't understand. Like, normal people, like if I walked out to the street and grabbed 100 people, said, you want to be a millionaire? Yes, all of them want to be. And I would give them some of the things I got to deal with on a daily basis. They would laugh because they would be like, how do you deal with this?
Right.
Like, how do you deal with the fact that you had a company and all of a sudden your key guy quits on you?
Right. Or steals from you.
Yeah. Or your number one customer with 70% of your business just fired you. Or, the government called you and your accountant messed up and you got to pay a bunch of taxes. And. I mean, I literally, that one, I'm just saying examples, but like most people aren't able to deal with that. And I think that's the reason why when people get, they win the lottery, I think it's like the average within 5 years are actually worse off than they were before they got the money because they created a bunch of bad habits.
Right.
They didn't grow into that worth, right? They didn't grow into the person who could deal with those kind of problems, and they end up right where they started.
Same with inheritance, not even just lottery. Inheritance
100%.
is more common.
Yeah.
I think it's
dude, it's true even for I work with a lot of software founders. Many of them get into windfalls of cash, right? They sell their companies for 25, 30 million. And 5 years later, they're back with $1 million left over, working on their next thing because it came a little too easy. Now, it wasn't easy to get there, but they didn't build the capacity to deal with, how do you create assets that generate income? Because all they know is, how do I build something that becomes a hit and hopefully somebody will buy it, right? That's a recipe for very rare, but it's not how wealthy people stay wealthy. Doing that.
You could apply this to even military, like special forces. A lot of people want to be the Navy SEAL or Special Forces Ranger or something. Put me and you in a helicopter in a Chinook, and I don't want to do that anymore. I don't know what to do. It sounds cool, but I didn't go through that journey that they went through. And I think a lot of people just want the end goal without having to go through that pain and suffering that's associated with achieving.
I think it's part of it. It's required. And I think that's what that quote for me contains. It's, instead of wishing that it didn't happen, wish that you were big enough to deal with the problem.
Okay. So then the question is what do we do to become that person? So we might not be thinking.
Tons. Yeah. I mean, we could probably, both of you and I could list out tons of things. I mean, it's everything, I think, from changing your perspective. I think anytime somebody feels lost or feels overwhelmed, it's because they forgot why they started in the first place. Right. So I always go back to my why, no matter what it is. I don't care what happens, how hard I get kicked in the stomach. It's why did I start this business in the first place? And let's get centered around that. It's who in my network can I turn to that I feel have been there, done that before, so I can get some real, clarity, pun intended, around the options that I have ahead of me. It's where am I spending my time lately to really feel that energy of support? Am I spending time? Have I been a hermit lately and not been around other great entrepreneurs that are going to energize me and inspire me and push me to think bigger? And then when's the last time I've actually stepped out of my selfish little zone and tried to serve other people? Because I know personally, anytime anything happens, no matter what it is, from a friend of mine getting, some kind of illness and it just crushes me, the fastest way for me to turn around is to pick up the phone, call somebody and ask them, how can I help? Anybody, literally. I could drive to, I do a lot of work with at-risk youth. I could just leave here right now, go there and sit down with these kids and just talk to them, not even do anything special, not bring them money or food, just spend time with them. And it'll serve me by giving from that perspective. So there's a lot of stuff people can do to kind of become the person who can deal.
Yeah. When you personally are going through hell, what are the first sort of things that you think of? You mentioned one of them, like who can I reach out to, like mentor wise, but what else do you do when you're going through hell?
So it's funny. I don't know why. It's neat that you asked that question. I actually have a YouTube video called How to Get Up When You've Been Kicked Down. And it is my 7 process. So I created this video. So the cool part of, over the last 2 years, people that are new to me, it's like I came from essentially, growing up with an alcoholic mother, group homes, foster homes, jail twice by the time I was 17, rehab. And it was in rehab I discovered programming, saved my life, became my new addiction, and have since then, been just super lucky and blessed to have built 5 technology companies, hired over 500 people, invested in some of the top companies in the world that were kind enough to let me get involved. And honestly, I just go out there to add value. And 2 years ago, I started documenting the questions I was getting in my inbox, right? I'm pretty public on social media and blogging and Twitter. And I just said, you know what? Email is where words go to die. I'm going to take their questions and shoot a video and publish it on my YouTube channel. And that one would come up all the time, right? So it's weird that I just happen to have the tab open when you ask that question. So we're going to walk through my framework because I see it right there. And if you go to show notes, I always sneakily put it in there. So if you don't want to watch the whole video, you can get the gist of it. Yeah. 1, own it. Own it. Don't pretend like it's not happening. I remember I had my company Flowtown, the social marketing product, and we had raised almost $1 million in funding. one day found out that one of our major data providers was shutting us down. Essentially, they were no longer giving us access to the data, and it made our whole product not work. Okay. So we had 2.5 months to change that. And my co-founder, Ethan, at the time was totally effective as his first company. And I said, look, you can go take some time off, but at 5 o'clock tomorrow, we own this moment. And that's one, right? So like own it. 2, it's stop and assess. It's really taking the time to breathe and say, what are we dealing with here? Like what is the impact to the business truly based on whatever just happened in my life? 3 is reach out, which is what I just said to you, like reach out to people that hopefully at that point in your career, you've got some at least a mentor and or advisors, or at least a peer group of people that are on that same journey. Number 4 is make a list, because to me, this is the big one. What can I control and what can I control? Right? I can't control the economy. I can't control how somebody else reacts. I can control me. I can control waking up at 4 a.m. I can control picking up the phone and doing 100 calls to try to replace a customer that just, you know what I mean? Like those are things. So it's like, I think it's important because otherwise you feel overwhelmed, right? You don't know like what's a tangible option. And through that, it's like, essentially too many options will lead to paralysis. 5 is clear your schedule. This is a big one. I did not used to do this when I was younger as an entrepreneur. Literally, because I have 2 kids, if something major happens, I go to my wife, we talk about it, and I block. Many times I'll leave. I'll go get a hotel, right? It's easier
in the same town.
100%. 100%. It's easier for me to go all in for 2 days to process and deal and overcome, and then try to do both at home. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like my kids are going to be talking to me and I'm like not there.
Right.
So it's like I tell people, get out, like have a partner that's obviously on the same page and just look, I'll get us through this, but I'm just going to need to go away for 2 days and go in that hotel room and disconnect and grind and get it done. Yeah. So hopefully this is not a reoccurring thing. I mean, if it's a reoccurring thing, it's systematic. There's a problem there. But every once in a while, two times a year, maybe once a year, like something major is going to happen that you got to overcome. And I just don't think you're not going to be available to anybody else. You might as well just own it and clear your schedule.
Yeah.
And then 6 is execute. And that's like, always start with the things that make you fear the most. So the things that make you anxious on that list of what you can do. Usually I would rank order based on, levels of anxiety around doing that. And then afterwards, this is really big, is debrief. After you've resolved the issue, take the time, like schedule it to figure out what happened to cause that and how do you change that. So I remember I was building a company, the first company, I built 5 companies. The first 2 were complete failures. The third one, Spheric Technologies, it was a consulting company. One of our clients was essentially 40% of our business and let us go. So all of a sudden now I'm not profitable. I've got a team and an overhead that I can't afford. And after we got through that, the thing I decided, I will never let any one customer be more than 20% of my business. And that to this day is a rule. It's like if a company grows more than that, then all of a sudden I need to grow the other accounts or I got to get new customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So just like that's my process for dealing, when you get kicked hard.
It also sounds like a process for dealing with high levels of stress as well.
Totally. I mean, to me, that's like when you get whatever happens, that's usually the byproduct. I just think that I know people that are on like, let's call it the spectrum, and especially in the Valley. I don't know if you watch Silicon Valley, the TV show on HBO. Yeah, it's like that, like many of the founders are they call themselves stoic. They've got Asperger's or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like that's, so they don't get stressed out, but they should still do what I just said when things happen.
Okay. You also said, I always fall back on my why earlier. What is your why and how did you develop that? I think a lot of guys, it sounds popular. Simon Sinek, I think, made it really popular and blew it up with his book and TED Talk. But I don't think a lot of people have a strong why.
Yeah, my why for building Clarity was to connect the 400 million entrepreneurs around the world, right? Because I just know there's the reason I'm alive as a person, right? Because entrepreneurship became my new addiction. My dad said growing up, like, in and out of jail, group homes, foster homes, and he would just jokingly say, "I wish you could find something you're passionate about that wasn't illegal." Like that's like legit. And you hear the people say this, like passion. Like it literally wasn't till I was 17 and I discovered programming that I got it, that I finally found something that I thought was interesting enough, gave me kind of a dopamine hit, and really it was the internet, right? All of a sudden it was like, I just built this thing and I've got this thing called a URL. And if I share this with, Andrew on the other side of the world, he can see the thing I built. Like people take for granted. I don't. Even today, I'm blessed and feel so lucky to be in the field I work in because my dad worked in a shop for 32 years. I never seen what he did. You know what I mean? I didn't see the output of what my parents built. My products that I built, people use and touch, and like I could show people, and it was like real. And like I just never took that for granted. So yeah.
I mean,
I don't even know your question. Yeah.
Well, it was what was your why? But even this podcast alone right here, I mean, thousands of guys are going to listen to this, and me and you are not in this, you're at your place in Canada. I'm here in America, in San Diego.
It's so cool. Like literally, I wrote down this morning. So I do like 3 things I'm grateful for every day.
Yeah.
And today I wrote down, I still am grateful for the fact that I get to do all the, I batch my podcast interviews, right? So I'll do 7 today. And I'm doing it from wherever I'm at. You know what I mean? If I want to travel with my kids and be in San Diego where you're at, like where I go usually in the winter, like I'm not taking that for granted ever, because there was a time where that wasn't even possible, where planes didn't exist, that it would take you 4 weeks to go across, the continents, and
you'd lose an arm in the process.
Oregon Trail. Don't understand how lucky we are on all aspects.
Right. You're right. I like that. The gratefulness. How long have you been doing that for? 3 grateful things every morning, you said?
I would say religiously 3 years. Big fan of the 5-minute journal. So UJ and Alex are good friends of mine. I actually helped them build their mobile app. So you can go download. I think it's free or $6 or whatever.
Nice.
Yeah. So I would say I've always had an attitude of gratitude based on reading stuff. I got into personal development when I was like 23. So I'm 37 now. So I think it's always, you can't really read a whole lot on personal development without having gratitude show up. But the practice of a morning ritual where I write it down, about 3 years.
Great. Is this something that you want? So you're investing in a company. Do you teach this stuff to your co-founders or?
Not on the investment side. So I have kind of like 2 parts of my world. I used to have 3. I'm an entrepreneur. I build companies and operate. So like Clarity is my last company. While I was exiting that business is when I started having my first son, Max. And then 11 months later, I had Noah. So I have 2 boys that are 11 months apart. And I just decided to take time off because my dad actually was in sales. He was always gone and on the road. And I could easily see myself repeating that behavior by starting another software company, because when you build a company to scale to tens of millions of revenue in like 3 years, it requires an intense amount of focus, right?
Yeah.
And presence.
Yeah.
And everybody from Gary Vee to, you name the person you admire, they'll tell you that's just what it is. And I was just like, you know what? I don't need to do this anymore. Financially, I'm good. I'm just going to spend time with the family, but I still want to be active. Right. And so that's why I started the YouTube videos for my kids. So I want to teach them to be entrepreneurs. I know they're not going to listen to me because that's what kids do to their parents. But if they're ever ready, I want it to be documented in case something ever happened to me, or they don't want to ask me, but they could still get the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. How old are the kids? How old are the kids?
They just turned 4 and 5.
They're going to have, by the time they're 10, they're going to have so much content. It might be information overload, Dan.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of information. And you know what? It turned out like I started for them, and then it's turned in like, just this incredible opportunity to serve at scale. So like I've always done local stuff, helped as many entrepreneurs, spoken in more non-coastal city tech accelerators. This is a passion of mine. And I realized like instead of me getting on a plane, traveling and speaking in person, I could just spend the time to document my thoughts and try to be like process too, right? Like those are my 7 steps. Like everything I've ever learned about building and scaling SaaS businesses, software as a service, just give it away freely. And then that way, it's happened to me several times today. People email me. I give them a link to the answer. Like if you keep, and somebody asked me that, they go, I want to do content marketing. What should I do? And I go, answer your customers' questions online. So they're like, what do you mean customers? I go, you're getting paid to do whatever you do. I forget what he did. And he goes, yeah. I said, well, when you start working with a customer, they have questions for you. Yeah. Write them down. Do a video on each one of those. And like what happens is it creates, and then this is what happened for me. People subscribe to get the next video. That goes to them. They reply with the next questions. And it's just this beautiful cycle of
the content engine is created by your prospects and customers.
Organic, super organic. I don't have to stress. I I know one person cares about that answer or video. It's a longevity game. Like that's we were talking about that before we hit record. Like I think people don't go long enough to really get the outcome, right? People, I brought up Gary Vee already, and I'll tell you why. I met Gary in 2000, probably 8. Okay, so I don't even know when he started Wine Library TV podcast, but it was probably 2007 maybe, or it could have been 2008. Like I met him in the very, very, very beginning, and people don't realize that I think it was 3 times a week, if not daily. It was daily. He did a daily wine show for 10 years. So if you have any but, you guys can't see that, but I just gave the finger in the air, like, fuck you. Like that, people do not have the amount. They think that they know somebody, and I don't think they know.
Do you think Gary Vee's sane?
I don't know if I don't know if he's sane. All I know is that, it's kind of like when I look at people, right? I think it's important to like take pieces from the people that you admire and like leave the rest.
Right.
Like Gary's Gary. You know what I mean? Like I would not take, and I know he's writing a parenting book, but that's his style. And maybe the advice on how to communicate with your kid is good.
Yeah.
But like I would never model his and I don't know, but I'm pretty sure, like, and he admits, like, I pick my kids up every day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I go to their games, and like, that's why, I almost feel like that's why I became successful in business, so I could do that stuff.
Right.
So it'd be weird for me to, again, that's just me. Like I think it's important for us to not put any one person, Richard Branson or whatever. Cause like, I think what'll happen is you get close and you realize like the emperor's got no shoes or whatever that saying is, right?
He's not.
So I think, yeah. And I think what's good about Gary is he's exactly, I think, who people think he is. So that's good. Now, do you want to take everything he's doing and try to do it? I think you'd be an idiot to do that because you're not him.
Right.
And he's not me and I'm not you. And we all have our own thing that we should lean into, which this is the cool part, is that if we're honest with ourselves when we do that, that's what the world wants.
Yeah.
The world wants us to be us. Isn't that crazy?
Yep.
That the more I allow myself on video, and everybody go do this. Watch Gary's first video. You can sort videos by oldest to newest, and watch my first video, oldest to newest. And I think what you'll see, and this is true for me, is I became more of who I am. This person that you hear now and you see, I'm more me on video than I was in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it gets better and better, is because we as humans love watching somebody that's 100% them. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't matter if they're awkward. They could be like, you've probably watched a video where the person's like, and you're just like, and that is so crazy. Why is he doing that? Yeah. But it's 100% them.
Yeah. And women or whatever, your significant other, I think want that too. They want to see you. They don't want to see you become someone else.
No. And it's so, and here's the cool part. And this is why I have a lot of respect for Gary. That's who he is. He's not playing a character. People don't like him or whatever. Like, I love that because like I've seen it happen year over year over year. People are like, I think he's just a dick and he swears too much and blah, blah, blah. A year later, they're like, you know what? He's not that bad, man. And I'm just like, yeah, because it's you had the problem with you. Like they don't like him because of their filter.
Right.
And then they realize like he's who he is. And that's kind of cool. Right. And I think that's true for a ton of people. So Do I think he's crazy? I think he's crazy based on most people, because if you consider crazy just different then yeah.
Great. And as Steve Jobs says, it's the crazy ones who change the world.
Totally.
Yeah. So for yourself, you've built companies, you've sold companies. My question for you is why build to exit instead of building to keep? Obviously, someone's buying it, which says that there is value there. So why not continue to grow and be a part of that?
So what a great question. And, I think as I get older, I kind of so like I now invest in companies, and many of them, like, I don't want them to raise money. I don't want to raise money, and I want to build the business. Like, there is no exit, So it's like, why would I tell them that now and me different? I just think I think with Flowtown, when I started that company, I moved to San Francisco with a purpose to learn how to build software. Prior to that, I've always been technical. I've built software, but I never built a software company. My previous company that I sold, Spheric Technologies, was a consulting company building enterprise software. So we were a consulting company. People pay us a lot of money per hour to come in and integrate shit. So I got paid to like build a technical team of like 30 plus people. And then I built Flowtown, and the thing is that if you raise venture capital, That's the agreement you're making. There's a video I have on the secret agreements you make once you raise money. And one of them is you need to get up to bat and swing as hard as you can every time. And if you think you're going to go up and bunt to first plate, you're a dick because no VC gave you money to do that. So that's you need to understand. So Flowtown, I raised money because I thought that would be a fun skill to learn, right? But in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have, and I didn't need to. I could have self-funded that business. We were already ramen profitable by the time we raised that money. Clarity, though, I think every once in a while you come across an idea that's an opportunity to build something that's never existed before at a scale that is warranted for venture capital. And the thing is, as soon as you raise venture capital, there's an expectation that you exit, right? So the thing with Clarity is, even though it was a huge commercial success, the $1 billion path was a different business. And I knew that. And I told my investors that. I said, look, I have an opportunity right now to exit and generate a really great return for you guys in a 2-year period. It was not even 2 years. It was like 14 months from the time they invested to the outcome. Or, I'm probably going to have to find somebody else because I don't care about building the next stage of the business because it's away from where the why. The next stage for Clarity to scale was actually go in the corporate market and build a way for big Fortune 500 companies to pay for advice to do essentially market intelligence or, insider trading. So it was a different product.
Okay. So based off of how you raised money is going to determine
if you raise money, you have a decision. You either go public or you exit.
Okay. So
right.
That's
so
it.
if you have that's it. Like, you're not allowed to build a profitable cash flow business.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, the investors don't want to hear you say, yeah, my favorite book is The 4-Hour Work Week.
No, if that's even in their vocabulary, you're not raising the money. No, you literally, that's one of the secret agreements is that you're committing to putting your head through a wall if that's what's required to be successful. That's my approach.
Okay.
That's just what I agree to. Yeah. And when I invest, I look at the founder and I say, this is what I expect of you. And if you're not willing to do that, I get it.
Yeah.
But just don't take my money.
Right. So then I think what is the alternative here? It is raising money for an idea that you have, and I hope an idea that's already working. Is that the only way?
No, you can, and I think this is where it requires more patience, right? Like one of the guys out there right now, Russell Brunson's built ClickFunnels, right? 30 million a year run rate, 100% bootstrap, no venture capital. What he was smart enough to do is it's a thing called bootstrap to baseline. He bootstrapped the business to a baseline using his existing network. Right. So one of my clients, a guy named Ryan Levesque, he wrote a New York Times bestseller called The Ask Method. I've been working with him on his new software called Bucket, right? It was a marketing segmentation software. Same deal. Bootstrapping, not going to raise money, is going to build a very profitable, high growth, and maybe sell it or not. But that's the path. And I think, for a lot of people that have an audience, they have an expertise, they have a business. I teach people, I have a program where I teach them how to extract a software idea from a service business, right? And the reason why those are more successful than just like some 20-year-old with an idea trying to build software is they actually know business. They know how to sell. They have a customer that they can talk to and serve. And those end up being really great software businesses. So, and they can bootstrap it. They can self-finance, right? So you don't have to, but if you raise, you either go public or you exit and make a return for your investors.
Right. Okay. And interesting that you brought up the Russell Brunson guy, because I was watching a video on him last night about this same topic. And he says that taking on investor money is cheating. He says it's like steroids, where you're injecting yourself with a lot of cash, but then it may hurt you later. Like steroids may hurt you later because now you have this pressure to make a return on that money, which can
100%
change your vision. It can change your goals. It can change everything of what you wanted your company to be.
Yeah, but I also know Dropbox does not become Dropbox. Airbnb doesn't become Airbnb. Like, there's certain companies and Clarity for me with that you just cannot scale. Slack would not be Slack, right? Trello wouldn't be Trello.
Uber.
Because at the speed, Uber for sure. That one's that's a good one because there's no way they would have dealt with the legal blow. Yeah, sometimes you need capacity, you need expertise, and that comes with capital and credibility of these people giving you money, right? So there's no right or there's no like, you must do this or not. It's just understand the decision you're making.
Let's say that for let's say you have an opportunity on the table. You probably do. And it's an amazing opportunity. It's a great opportunity, and it requires that you invest half of your net worth. And so what are the non-negotiables that you want to see in this founder?
I would probably not make that bet. That's what people don't understand is, Richard Branson would make that bet. Mark Cuban would make that bet. I wouldn't make that bet.
Okay.
And that's why people that get money or cash too quick, they don't build the muscle to understand how to deal with that cash, right? Because they haven't had to build the business off of cash flow. Like, there's no business. I mean, yeah. So I wouldn't make that bet. But your question is, what are the non?
I said half your net worth. Is there a limit that you have where you instantly say, yeah, I would not make that bet? Is it 10%, 5%?
I try not to make any one investments more than 10% of my net worth in one. So if that's me bootstrapping another business, if that's me investing in a real estate deal or whatever, it's probably 10%.
Okay. 10% on that one deal, or 10% for all of your investments?
No, 10% of my total net worth on one deal if I'm trying to be super risky.
Okay, got it. And that's super
But there would need to be a lot of things to align for me to say yes. Like a lot of things, like literally if like what would need to happen. One, I felt like what they were working on is what I would work on if I was building a business. Two, the team are people that I've seen execute in the past and are doing it again, right? And they're like all coming together like Voltron, right? Like 5 different or Power Rangers.
Transformers, like they become one.
Yeah, Transformers, yeah. A market, yeah. And that the risk, I mean, this is the thing, right? It's always de-risking the opportunity. So I learned this from a ton of my, super wealthy friends. It's like, how do I get uncapped upside with a capped downside, right? So it's like, if I could minimize my loss to 50% of that, whatever I put in, and the upside is 100x, then I would do that deal. But if the downside is unprotected, or even worse, like, if you're doing options trading, that's just stupid. You're unprotected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, there's a lot of things that would have to be true for me to make that investment regardless.
More on the founders. What do you want to see in them character-wise or experience-wise?
Oh, that one I can speak to. I actually have a whole video on that. I'm not going to pull it up, but what do I look for in founders?
Non-negotiables. Non-negotiables.
Yeah. They have to teach me stuff. Like they need to be so competent in their thing that I feel like I'm being schooled when I talk to them.
That's great.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Two, that they're solving a problem that I think people are going to pay for stuff, right? So that's not a nice to have, it's a must have. It's like, and it's something that I think matters and I care about. And then three, that I feel like they literally would, especially if it's my money, not just advice, but like if I'm putting my money, that they would do whatever it would take to make it succeed. I have a problem because I feel like, I could tell you 100 times that like things blew up in my face and I didn't give up. Right.
Right.
Like crazy stuff that on the surface, I thought was just, that's what you do. I'm in this game for the rest of my life. Like I'm not trying to build a company for 3 years and I'm going to go do something completely different in the future. Like every decision I make is, how will I feel about this decision in 20 years if it gets brought up in front of everybody that I'm friends with, right? So it's like, I'm always testing against that. So yeah, that's, I just think like, are they willing to do with what I always say, the information I have at the time, did I make the best decision I could, right? Yeah. So I just think a lot of founders are too quick to give up. Even ones that raise venture capital. I have so many of my investments, like the rule of angel investing is, out of 10, 7 will go to 0, 2 will give you like a double, and 1 should do a 10x to kind of make up for the losses, or 25x, like you'll make your money there. And like the ones that give up and shut down, like I'm like, come on.
Why do you think they gave up too soon?
Sometimes because it doesn't look as, people they fucking get drunk on this whole tech space, man. They watch like the movie Social Network and they think that that's just the way it is. And it's not. Like the reality, especially for B2B SaaS business. So business to business software as a service, that's my specialty. Those companies take time, like on average, like 7, 10 years. So if you're not giving yourself a 10-year horizon, even if you raise venture capital, then you're already like shooting yourself in the foot before you get out of the gate. So I just think people don't understand the amount, like, and we were talking about this before we recorded, like the real wealth or the value in that business is going to be created on the back end of that time horizon. So it's not in the first 5 years, it's in the second 5 years, right? Out of a 10-year horizon. And if they, it gets, they hit the dip, or they, whatever you want to call it, the top, like shit happens. If they don't push through, and now I'm not saying like there's not a time when you just shut her down. And I've definitely given that advice to companies I've invested in. But if there's something there and it's really just like, we just don't have any money right now and it's going to suck, or to make this work, it means dude. So Travis Kalanick, who's the founder and CEO of Uber, he was one of my investors in Flowtown. And I knew Travis like when nobody knew Travis. He like had 500 followers on Twitter. And, he told me the story when they were building Red Swoosh, which was the company he sold for $20 million prior. 6 years he worked on this, and he had zero money left, and they had one chance of building what they thought their customers wanted, one kick at the can. And you know what he did, which I thought was fascinating? He outsourced himself and his team to Thailand to give them more runway to work on the code to then bring it to market.
They moved the company to Thailand.
He moved him and his 3 other co-founders, I think it was 5, there were 6 total, to Thailand because they had like 20 grand in the bank left to live enough time to build the new version to bring it to market. That's what I'm talking about.
That's the type of guy you invest in.
That's what I'm talking about. So if you can tell me a story, that's why, unfortunately, immigrants or people that have been through chaos, that have overcome that, have an advantage because they're willing to fight, man. Like I remember one founder sits me down. I said, how did you end up in the States? And he swam across a fucking channel, like a body of water that you don't swim across, so that he can escape his country. I'm just like, dude, I'm in. Like whatever. I don't.
What are you selling candy machines? I'm in.
Yeah,
this
I'm
guy's
like,
a
whatever it is, man. Like. Yes, that.
Okay, that answers that question. Now, partnerships or solo for the founder, does it matter?
Partnerships always.
Don't these divorce? Don't these break up and into these feuds?
Yeah, but you can, if you're smart about how you set up legal structure. So you can do founder vesting, which means that everybody's on a vesting schedule. So if somebody leaves after 2 years, they don't run away with half the company. You can do shotgun clauses, so you can have scenarios where somebody wants to, life events happen, they want to leave out, and you can buy or sell the business to that person.
Okay.
Yeah, there's ways legally to set that up right. And, I don't know any business was ever built because of some one genius. Unless you're trading stock, even at that, you're probably going to have to like build some, some high frequency trading algorithms and stuff. You're going to need a team. And like people just don't care as much if they don't feel like they're a partner in.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they might be looking for work elsewhere when it goes south.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So you got 2 kids, 4 or 5, you said. Also, I've heard you say that you're married. How do you balance the work and the life?
Dude, I got a video on that. Startup Family. You guys should check it out. Here's the way I do it. It's like one day, there's a whole story behind this, but I'll tell you the big idea is I started applying all this stuff because I'm really good on the business side. Just whatever it is, my brain's wired for growth in business. But like growing up in my like mid 20s, I was like the worst person to be in a relationship with. Like zero. Like I was horrible. I would go to parties and bring my laptop. I would just, oh yeah, it's horrible.
Like
my friends laugh. My buddy Nick was just making fun of me on the weekend. He goes, remember that time you came to my house for that party? And I was like, yeah. He goes, you're a different person now. And I'm like, yep. So and after like several like long-term failed relationships where the woman just kind of dropped like the bomb and said, I'm done. I asked myself, like, why am I so good in business, but I suck in relationships? And I just went on a journey, right? And I just said, like, what is it that they want, and what do I want, and where do we figure this out? And and so I finally met my now wife and an incredible partner. But then it was like, how do I create a life where I can still be this driven, crazy, motivated entrepreneur? Because that's me, and I'm happiest there. But I can still be who she needs for her. Like I can show up for her the way she needs, and I can be present for my kids, and I can be a great person to my family and my friends. So there's a lot of different things. I could talk about this for 7 hours because it's something I'm very passionate about, but like the big ideas are, we have structure for our relationship. So we do yearly planning, quarterly retreats disconnected. I do board meetings with my kids, which means one-on-one time for 4 hours, no cell phone. Yeah, we do a weekly
go over KPIs and see how everything's going.
Yeah, we don't call them KPIs, but we have values.
Chores. Yeah.
My kids have a whole like daily scrum. It's crazy. That's Agile development applied to chores. Like in there, they get check marks and they're little. But we've been doing this for years. So that's really the gist of it. Is we've applied how you operate and scale a company, right, to how do you run a family? So we have like a standards operating procedures called the playbook for our family. The other day I hurt my neck at CrossFit and I said, Renee, what's the name of the chiro that you go to? And she goes, it's in the playbook. Like we have a contact. So like, it's awesome. Like it's literally super efficient. When we went to San Diego, we have a whole playbook on how to transfer our lives into a new home because we travel so much that we built checklists for everything. So like it's essentially, and then in regards to calendar, it's blocked in. I always tell people, you say your kids are important, show me where it's at in your calendar. Yeah. I'll show you that Sunday for 4 hours, I had a board meeting with my son, Max. And that means phones go off and we do what he wants to do. And it's me and him, it's one-on-one. And at the end, we go to the restaurant he wants and we talk. And that's just what we do. And it's in the calendar and that's a non-negotiable. That doesn't move, right? Family night tomorrow, Tuesday nights, every Tuesday night, I give my wife the night off and the boys and I go and do stuff. Sundays are family days. Saturday, I do have a work block in there on the weekend, but it's usually before the kids are even like, I get up at 5 a.m. and I'm done by 9. So like there's still a way to incorporate that, but you got to be disciplined. Most people are like, I want this, but I don't know where I'm going to find time. It's like, you stop fucking watching Game of Thrones. Go to bed at 10 and get up at 5 a.m. Get up at 4 a.m. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's great. What I'm getting is you have structure and you're treating your family like it's an organization.
I just treat them like they matter.
Yeah.
And I care about my business. I care about my family. I care about checking out my wife. Dude, every week I ask my wife, how am I for you as a husband on a scale of 1 to 10? Every week. How are you supposed to grow apart if on a 7-day period you get rated on your score of being a husband or what? And she asked me the same question. I give her a score.
You rate her. Is
there's
just completely different? Like she gives you like a 6 and you give her a 10. It's like,
there's big I've gotten a 4 and she gotten an 8 for sure. Yeah. But I mean, it's cool because like if there's ever a 2-week period where I get like a 6, then we know where to focus. Like then we fix it, right? I think what happens in most relationships is they grow apart because there's no rhythm, right? It's like growing a business. Like I measure my numbers every fucking week. Right. Like that's just part of it. That's not a maybe that we should do that. That's how you grow.
Right.
So why would you do that for you and your relationship? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Fantastic. I'm glad I brought that up. I know a ton of guys got value out of that. And whether you're single or in a relationship, there's still so much value in there for when you do get into that relationship. Let's dive into the knowledge round. Just a few last rapid fire questions here, Dan, for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
So you might be wondering, why would I ever invest in a coach? I've never done anything like that before. Well, it's going to shorten your learning curve and save you the time that it would take to achieve your goal. You can avoid making mistakes that you would otherwise make. You'll get more results because everything will be tailored to your specific needs and challenges. The coach will hold you accountable so you can't procrastinate, so you can't be lazy, so you can't say, I didn't have the time. You'll be challenged and pushed harder than you've ever been pushed. You'll have conversations so powerful that you'll feel more energized, alive, and confident and certain about the goals that you have in front of you and where you want to go. Most importantly, where you want to be. You'll go farther than you've ever gone before when you have a coach. If you want to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program, go to kfmcoach.com. Again, that's kfmcoach.com to learn more about our high performance men's coaching program. You have got to understand that every successful person in the world invests in coaching to go from good to great. And if you're already a high achiever, then how much more could you achieve if you had a high performance men's coach at your side to push you even further? Go to kfmcoach.com to learn more and apply for our high performance men's coaching program. Again, that's kfmcoach.com. Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guests will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1, showtime.
What advice would you give to someone who's completely lost or unsure of what they should be doing. They're lacking a sense of direction in their life.
I would say get around other people that are certain about what they're doing in their life and just try to be helpful to them. Like literally just be whatever skill you have, offer it up to try to spend time with them to get a little sense of how they came to what they came to.
Great. What do you think is holding most men back from becoming stronger, grounded men today?
Their ego. So Ego is the Enemy is the ultimate book. Yeah. I think it's one of the top books. As a Man Thinketh is another great one.
Great. And actually, just on that topic, what are 3 of your most influential books that have helped you on your journey, and briefly why? So you mentioned Ego is the Enemy, As a Man Thinketh.
No, I'm not giving those ones. If you're asking me for my 3, it would it would probably be Love is a Killer App by Tim Sanders, because it taught me everything about connection and knowledge and being a good person. I would say 4 Hour Work Week. Dude, I just reread that. Like, Tim wrote a good book. And Tim's a friend of mine. We've vacationed together. He, wow, I wish I could write it. Like, I hope when I write a book, it's not in some friggin' sphere of that good. It's just a good book. And then I would say The One Thing.
Gary Keller?
Yep.
Okay. Earlier, though, we talked about 4 Hour Work Week, and you said, if he's reading that, it's over. So can you explain
as
the
an
difference?
Investment? Yeah.
Yes.
But as a person, like a way to get leverage. And look, Tim doesn't work 4 hours a week. I mean, that's the funny part.
Yeah.
Maybe
he did when he wrote that, though. Maybe he did when he had the supplement company.
This is what it is. And look, I've talked to Tim about this. He could work 4 hours a week. You know what I mean? Like, even today, Tim could work 4 hours a week if he wanted to, but he doesn't. And I think what happens is if you can build your life so that you could, then you don't, because you're now in a spot to only do projects that bring life to you. And why wouldn't you want to bring that energy to your life?
Right.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Just most people can't not work a 4 hour work week.
Yeah. What advice would you give your 25-year-old self if you had 60 seconds with him right now, knowing what you now know today?
Oh, wow. What was the question? What advice do I give my 25-year-old self?
Yeah. So scenario. Yeah. Imagine you had 60 seconds with your 25-year-old self. And if you could sit down with him right now and whisper some things into his ears, what would that be?
I would probably tell him to keep building the company that he sold. So I sold Spheric after 4 years, and I probably shouldn't have. Yeah.
All right. And on the dating and relationship front, what would you say to him?
Oh, that would be good. Quit drinking, honestly. I quit drinking and probably is why I'm still married.
Powerful. Yep. Powerful. 100% no drinking. Social.
Don't drink. Haven't touched a drink since my wife told me she was pregnant.
Beautiful. A lot of respect there. And now, what would you say is your philosophy on success?
I think it's if you're thinking of business, the context, it's how do you add more value for your customer than anybody else in the world? That's my true north. I always try to answer that question whenever I feel like I don't know what to do next in the business. In life, I think it's if I only had, and this is the way I do it, is if I only had 5 years left to live, because I feel like 5 years is enough to actually build stuff still, but not waste time. What would I be doing with my life? And that's a question that I plan my year with. I only had 5 years left. I've got 1 year coming up and then 4 more. What am I going to do in the following year? And that's kind of how I prioritize. And I think those are two great questions that help guide both aspects of personal, like, would you want to do that fishing trip with your dad? Would you want to go on that ski trip with your buddies? Like, those are all things that you can kind of get in there.
Yeah. And finally here, I'm curious for yourself, having made some good income in business and in your investments, how do you view money? How has your relationship with money changed over the years as you've grown as an investor entrepreneur?
Just energy. Like, I literally look at energy as an opportunity to add more life into experiences, period. And I think that I had some shitty ass money beliefs, some bullshit money beliefs that stopped me. And like, that's all I worked on. And honestly, I continue to work on. Like, I have no doubt that I'm going to, build hundreds of millions of dollars in value in my time here. You know what I mean? Like, maybe $1 billion if I get enough time. If I live to 80, I'll be a billionaire, because it's really just a time game. And when I think of it, it used to be like, oh, it's the score. Like, I use money to score how good I am. And that's one way to look at it. Yeah. To like know if I'm getting better, right? Because that's a value creation is well. And then, for me, it's all about resources and experience. So it's like, the more capital that I have, the more I can bring to it. But then it really switched for me, I think, when I sold my second company, because then it was all about like, how do I create a structure that allows me to get freedom in the sense that if I want to do another venture capital business, or if I don't, that I don't have to work. And then all of a sudden my decisions come from that place. And yeah, I just think, you know, it just is what it is, you know, just like your health. And I know that's a big part of what you teach is that kind of balance. And I just think, you know, I posted this recently because I found some data. This is fucked up, but you know, the average person, I think it was 57 to 67 years old, average in North America. This isn't like most people have nothing. The average has $13,000 in savings for their retirement. 57 to 67. Like, what the fuck? Like, what decision did you make in your life that you thought that was okay? So that blew my mind. And then you see this Fidelity kind of suggestion. They're saying like you should have your salary times, and it's like essentially by the time you're 70, you should have like 7 times your salary. So like every 10 years of life, you should have that equivalent of in savings. So the gap is obviously pretty huge for most people.
Right.
And you know, like I'm lucky, whatever, I don't know what percent of it, I'm in the 1%. Like this is, you know, and then I asked myself, and I posted on Facebook, like what are people not learning about economics or finances or the mindset? What information do they not have access to? And the unfortunate realization, I was hoping we were going to get to some good stuff, is truth is people just live above their means. My kids, if I give them one thing, I want to make sure I teach them to make more than they spend, period. Like that is like 101. And then if you're not happy with your level of living, then you can go figure out how to make more. You know what I mean? That'll be the forcing function to say, well, maybe cutting lawns isn't going to get the life that I want. So if I want to live this life, I got to go earn more income so that I can raise that up. So that's the way I think about it.
Yeah. I think when you're spending more than you currently earn, it puts you in a state of scarcity because
that's a huge part.
You have abundance. And so you're making decisions based on paying your bills now rather than having the freedom to create something that may take some time.
And it fucks up your ability to produce greatness. Like that, you know, my buddy Garrett Gunderson, he's the financial ninja. I'm a software guy. He's the financial guy. And Garrett talks about like the biggest hindrance to an entrepreneur's ability to perform is their mental capacity, the amount of financial overwhelm and the thoughts around money because they haven't set up the structure that they could easily set up to feel a level of security. And it's not like security, like I feel safe, but just like basic stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I think entrepreneurs are slowing down their ability, and men in general could be way more successful if they just like fuck their ego. I have a really good friend of mine just went through a divorce, and he is very ego driven. And I would tell this to his face because I love him to death. And, you know, the one thing I told him is like, I have a belief that you don't waste a good crisis, right? So like, no matter what happens, don't waste, you know? So if that means you got to lay off a third of your staff and you feel crappy, but you just lost your number one customer, nobody's going to hold it against you, but don't waste it, right? If you do that 8 months after the fact, even though you should have done it 8 months prior, people are going to be upset. So he's going through a divorce. And I said like, dude, like, where are you going to go live? He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, you have the ability right now to like transform your life. Nobody will hold it against you. You can go like live anywhere in the world. Nobody knows who the you are. And you can go discover who you're supposed to be, because he's still like trying to figure that out. And I would, but I'm not. And he wouldn't let me, but I would give him the money to go do that if that was an issue. And I know he's not going to do it. And it just sucks because his ego is going to stop him from experiencing that.
What's his ego,
you know, like
telling him, you think?
I don't want people to think that I couldn't deal with this. Maybe. I don't know.
Oh, so
you know,
he's weakness. He doesn't want to appear weak.
Yeah. He doesn't want to appear weak. Doesn't want to appear, you know, like it affected him. You know, he's got his like, you know, 8-year-old fancy car that he drives around on that he probably can't afford. You know what I mean? Like all that. It's just crazy. It's just like this facade, you know? And I think he realized like he's 40 now. Like that's like, you don't like, you're 40. It's like you're soon going to be 50. Like life's not that long. I don't know. I just feel like I was blessed to feel like every year was a gift because I grew up and really didn't have a whole lot. So I didn't expect to live this long. So I just didn't waste any time. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think ego is a big thing. And look, we all got it, man. There's a reason why you're wearing that shirt. I'm wearing this shirt. We live in our fucking worlds. Like, I mean, it's part of just, it's, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm not an idiot. Like, I know that, but at least I'm awake to it.
Beautiful. Well said, well put together. And I think that provided a ton of insight for the listeners, just that last piece there, especially. What is getting you out of bed in the morning? What's really driving you when you wake up?
Yeah, I mean, I have a mission to help 10 million kids, at-risk youth build their confidence through building business. So that's like everything I do in the business side supports that. And that's a program called The Creators. But then, outside of that, I get to coach some of the best software founders in the world, bootstrapped and venture back, and that jazzes me up. But, it's funny, like I'm not a nonprofit guy. You know what I mean? I know what I'm good at and what I'm not. And like, I'm good at building businesses. So I just created a structure where, not always, but many times some of the scenarios are, they do well, I do well. And then that just gets funded to that fund that helps kids. Right. So it's super aligned and it feels great. Yeah, it's my why.
And for those listening, do you have a book coming out? Are you working on one? What's the deal?
Dude,
you've got just a ton of insight. It'd be great.
I got a book that I've got a manuscript for.
Okay.
And I'm not happy with it.
Okay.
And this is like a today thing.
Okay.
and I may have to go back to the drawing board because it's not going to do what I want it to do.
Yeah.
Great book, great content, but it's just like when I looked at it as a body of work, it didn't feel appropriate. And the effort to restructure it might be better just starting from scratch again. Mm-hmm. So if you see a book come out in October, you know that I did not do that. And if you don't, you'll know what I'm up to.
All right. And for those listening that want more of Dan, you can go to danmartell.com. He's got a great YouTube channel. If you haven't noticed, he's been referencing a lot of videos on this podcast interview. So you go to YouTube, search Dan Martell. He's got a ton of videos, all relevant and great insight as well. Dan, and also Dan Martell across all the social media. Just you can search there on the Twitters, the Facebooks, the Instagrams. Dan, it's been a pleasure having you here on the show. This was fun jamming with you. I've learned a great deal from you and just sharing your lessons, being authentic and vulnerable here on the Knowledge for Men show.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate you. And thanks for inspiring all those men out there to live a bigger life, because we all know somebody stepped up and showed us that it was possible. So that's super cool.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast. Hundreds of interviews and millions of downloads later, we're continuing to build an international movement, and we're just getting started. So if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and leave a helpful review in iTunes, because it really helps the podcast grow so we can impact even more men in the world who need this. Guys, this is all about living with purpose, where every day you only do things that matter to you. You wake up, live with purpose, and take massive action towards the life you want. And always remember, love the life you have while creating the life of your dreams. Go to kfmfree.com to get a surprise bonus I've made for my listeners. Again, that's kfmfree.com for something that's changed my life, and I'm offering it to you for free. Also, check out my Amazon best-selling books that I've written for you to help you crush life at kfmauthor.com. Again, that's kfmauthor.com to see all the books I've created to help you break through in life. This is your host, Andrew Farabee, founder of KnowledgeForMen.com, and I'll see you in the next episode.